Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Collateral Nation and our Walking Wednesdays. As you can see, I am on my own walking pad and I am getting my steps in for the day. But as I always say, it's not really about steps. It's about setting aside that time, that 30 to 60 minutes where you are walking, focusing on building those natural bypasses in your legs, even your heart. Yes, your body has the ability to grow new blood vessels in a sense with every step you do take. It's particularly important if you do have peripheral artery disease, that poor circulation in your legs, mainly. Yes, it can happen in your arms as well, but it's mainly in the legs. And when you have poor circulation in your legs, you get claudication, you get cramps in the back of your legs when you walk, and that really sucks. So it's counterintuitive, but we're going to tell you don't stop walking, walk more, walk through those cramps. And to help motivate you to do so, I want to introduce you to a really good friend of mine and someone I admire so much, Dr. Kevin Morgan. He's a pathologist. He has a PhD in pathology, if I'm correct, and he is a retired veterinarian. He is a PAD patient. He has had an aortic dissection that's been fixed and
Aortic aneurysm.
aortic aneurysm that's been fixed. Thank God it did not dissect. It's probably the better way to do it. I can see our YouTube producer, Josh, cringing because he works with our good friends and sister nonprofit Aortic Hope, and Karen Anderson, the CEO, would be like, no, 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 it's wrong. So if you want more information on that, make sure to go to Aortic Hope and their YouTube channel for more on that. They even have a great book, but also Kevin Morgan here has a great Facebook group for people who have aortic aneurysms that has been definitely helpful for me because for those who have been following our channel for a while, my mom passed due to an aortic dissection. And if only I would have known the symptoms prior to that, I would have realized that my mom had something going on and maybe we could have saved her. But make sure you follow Aortic Hope and make sure you do check out Kevin Morgan. Kevin, what is your Facebook page for aortic support?
It's how to live with an abdominal aortic aneurysm on Facebook.
And, and
There's
it's
stuff on
it's
my website as well.
it's very helpful just simply because here Kevin is, he's a triathlete at, you just turned 82?
Right.
82 years old, and I could swear that he's not even in his mid 60s. Not even. I would never have guessed that you were in your 80s, Kevin. And that's really a testament to your training and your commitment to staying healthy, trying to be a centurion, right?
Yeah. Exercise is the key. Diet's important. Being kind is very important. But underneath all that, exercise is critical.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we want to have every single week this hour where Kevin and I are going to hang out. And I think we have Douglas who's here as well. I'm not sure. We had someone else that just joined our live studio audience. You can join via YouTube, you can join via Facebook, wherever you want to join. If you do want to join our Zoom and you're not in our Facebook groups, padsupportgroup.org, where you can actually get the secret link to join our Zoom. If you're not there, you can always email us at info at padhelp.org. But we want to answer your questions about walking as medicine. And we want to try to have this for you every week. Come walk with us at least one day a week. You can get a little extra motivation and get some tips and tricks from the expert here, Dr. Kevin Morgan, on how to improve your circulation in so many ways. If the doctor says they can't do anything for you, you have these blockages. Well, you know what? Doctor told him that a long time ago, and look, he's still plugging away. He's doing great. He's still in his triathlons, and he's writing amazing books. So, inspirationalselfhelpbooks.com is his website. And he posts a lot of content as he's doing his training. So something new just about every day out there to help motivate you and support you in your journey. But I want to start now that I've, gotten through my soliloquy here. You put me on a treadmill and my mouth runs just as fast as my feet. So sorry about that. But Kevin, tell us about, because I think you being a pathologist plays a great role in the credibility and establishing that. So talk about what is a pathologist, what goes into the training, and how it has contributed to your success as a PAD warrior in triathlons.
Sure. Okay, Kim. Well, pathology is basically the discipline of the study of the nature of disease, which involves trying to determine the underlying mechanisms, ideally to develop therapeutic approaches to curing the disease, preventing the disease, vaccinating against the disease, or whatever. But it's really about understanding disease. I got a PhD in veterinary neuropathology back in 75 in Edinburgh, in Scotland. There I studied sheep diseases and mainly biochemical abnormalities affecting the brain. But then I went on to study general pathology. I got my Fellow of the Royal Colleges of Pathologists qualification. They accepted me based on published works. But understanding diseases, like my medical training and my pathology training, have been critical for how I've dealt with PAD since 2014. We're talking more than 10 years ago since it reared its ugly head. But in addition to pathology training, I also have extensive body movement training. I studied Feldenkrais, Pilates, yoga, whatever, to try and understand how my body worked, starting with Jeet Kune Do, the Bruce Lee fighting style, where I learned a great deal about body movement and efficiency. Uh, and so that has also helped considerably. And so I come into this with a problem in 2014. I mean, I ran the Boston Marathon in 2009. And in 2014, my running went to hell. I started getting numb feet in marathons and calf pain. In 2015, that was diagnosis of PAD was confirmed by Mark Farber here at UNC with an ABI test. It's an ankle brachial index test that compares uh, your your pressure in your pressure in your arteries down in your legs versus your arms. Anyway, that confirmed severe peripheral arterial disease, and now my right popliteal artery is 100% blocked, and there is no pulse in my on the top of my foot. The dorsal pedal artery is getting no blood, but my feet are still working. It's harder, but they're running on collaterals that I've been building through training. And the best place to start that training is walking.
Mhm.
The thing about walking is there's an art to walking. There are many ways to walk. And when do you think we learn to walk? Pretty well when we're about 18 months or two. We rush across to mom's arms, and that's how we learn to walk. And as a general rule, we get no further training on walking. So if you watch people walking, you'll see they do some extremely odd things. Some are kind of leaning back, others their feet are sticking sideways like ducks, some sway from side to side. But then if you watch a trained athlete walking, they have a very strong shoulder hip counter rotation. Their movements are very fluid, and this is because they know how to use their body. So I highly recommend you study your walking, and the best way to start that is just get a friend to film you walking towards them and away from them, and then you'll see what you're doing, and then start thinking about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And that is a great place to start. So I guess some of my videos are on that issue. A lot of it's about running. So basically, I guess body awareness is one of the keys. Teach yourself about what you're doing personally, and then maybe you can improve that quite a bit. And if you can walk safely, you can build a lot of collaterals. My right foot is running probably 90% on collaterals. If I hadn't been doing what I'm doing, I would have lost my right foot by now. So that's where you start. Wake up your feet.
And what are a couple of the exercises that you use to wake up your feet? We have quite a few patients that are bedridden, that are faithful watchers of our channel. And we have a one in particular that just had deep vein arterializations, meaning they hijack the vein in their calf to reroute blood flow through the vein into the foot because they have very, very angry wounds that won't heal on their toes, will likely end up with what's called a TMA or transmetatarsal amputation, where they just take all the toes. But he wants to keep his legs, he wants to keep his feet. But the only thing that's ever talked about when it comes to PAD is walking. Well, if you cannot walk, what are those exercises that you can do that have been clinically proven and in your experience do improve circulation while you are at rest?
Okay, there's a lot you can do, even if you can't get out of the bed and walk around. If you are able to move your toes at all, there's certainly stuff you can do. So there's number one is you can imagine doing an exercise, imagine walking, imagine moving your feet around and wiggling your toes. Imagine it, and that actually helps. And then if you go to my video channel, you see a number of exercises there where I talk about converting my feet into remote blood pumping stations. And in order to do this, I have a cyclic movement that's shown in the videos where as my foot lifts up off the ground, or if I'm lying in bed, I spread my toes. Being able to spread your toes is really important for pedal blood flow because there's a number of arteries between your metatarsals. If you spread your toes, you spread those bones in your feet. That helps blood flow. And then you have to engage the activity of the muscles in your feet. There are basically two sets of muscles in your feet, and if you engage them actively, it makes a huge difference to the use of your feet. I mean, our ancestors, I'm sure, used their feet to climb the stairs, and so to climb trees, and so get those get those feet moving. And the best place to explain that, I guess, is my videos on YouTube, which are pretty easy to find. My channel is called Fit Old Dog on YouTube, and if you go in there under PAD, there's plenty of exercises, and so you can start with those in bed. One is called a PAD 100, which is tough, so that would take a little while, but it wakes up your feet. So the trick is wake up your feet, for heaven's sake. If you flex your toes, you curl your toes down, you contract muscles in your calves that will help venous return. Makes a huge difference. So bodies thrive on activity. So be active. Start using your feet. And whatever you do, don't use compression socks. Don't use tube socks. Don't use shoes with a small toe box. You want to keep everything as open as you can so as blood and tissue fluids can get around. So that's the trick. Easiest way to know what I'm doing is to watch the videos.
So we got an interesting question that is coming in from Paige. It's such a great question. It's what if you already have stents that were placed in your leg arteries and years later it happens again, meaning that the blockages happen again. This is what happens with stents is they do reblock. She's asking, well, do you walk through it or do you get more stents? And I want to preface it before I go to you, Kevin. When you have a procedure to open up blockages and the doctor can open up the blockage, the whole goal with having any interventional procedure to restore blood flow in a manual fashion, whether it's wires or balloons or even a bypass, is to give you enough pain relief so that you can walk to grow your natural bypasses. So when those stents go down, when the grafts go down for the bypass, you will have built enough bypasses, natural bypasses around the stent, around that graft, so that you don't need another procedure. That's really the whole goal. Again, the goal of these procedures is to heal a wound on your foot. If you have a wound on your foot that won't heal due to poor circulation, you have rest pain that is waking you up at night and you need relief, or if you have lifestyle limiting claudication, meaning lifestyle limiting cramping in your legs to where you can't even make it to your kitchen, you can't even make it to your mailbox without stopping and resting for a few minutes. In those cases, then you need a procedure. But the point of having the procedure It's only temporary. You have to realize that these interventions are not permanent. The goal with them is to heal the wound, give you the pain relief so that you can get out and walk, walk, walk to grow your own natural bypasses. So when those go down, you can actually continue to walk. It might be a little sudden go, oh, whoa, I think it's blocked. But you know what? I'm going to keep pushing through that pain. I'm going to push through that claudication, and I am going to build more collateral vessels. That's really the goal. If it does not improve over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, even a little bit, then that's when you have the conversation with your doctor to say, hey, you know what, maybe we need to go in with a laser and maybe a drug-coated balloon and just give it a little bit more blood flow and open up those stents. But I'm curious your thoughts. I think you're so inspiring because you've never had stents put in your legs and you have these blockages. And you mentioned the popliteal artery that's behind your knee. And that's the best place if you're going to have a blockage. So much collateral growth can be generated in that area in particular with walking, correct?
I missed part of that because you went silent.
Oh no,
Yes.
am I freezing?
What was the question? Yeah, you froze.
So my question was, these procedures are simply they're temporary, right? All of these, when they open up your arteries, no matter whether it's with wires and balloons and placing stents or doing a bypass graft, it's only temporary. It's not a matter of if they're going to go down and block back up, it's a matter of when. And the only reason to have these procedures is really to heal the wounds. If there are wounds on your feet or your toes that are not healing due to poor circulation, or if you need pain relief. And we're talking pain relief for pain that wakes you up at night or pain relief for lifestyle limiting cramping in your legs where you can't even get to the kitchen, you can't get to the mailbox, and you just need a little more blood flow so you can walk, walk, walk to build more collateral vessels. And so this person's asking, well, should I go and have another procedure or to get more stents or to get the stents cleaned out, or should I try walking? And the protocols for PAD management is you should get out there and walk. And if walking does not improve your symptoms by pushing through that claudication, even with the block stents, then that's when you have a procedure. But I think it's good for people to know that you have these blockages, and particularly behind the knee, which is the popliteal artery, the best place to grow and generate those collateral vessels by walking. You've never had a procedure, and it's all just through training, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. My surgeon, Mark Farber, I approached him back in 2015, asking him if he could do an angioplasty or put stents in my, distal arteries in my leg, and he strongly advised against it. He said you risk losing that leg. It's a dangerous procedure, and he suggested a walking program, and that was fine, but I went way beyond that. But I think with this disease, if there's any sign whatsoever of atherosclerosis or arteriosclerosis in you or if family members, whatever, it's important to think prophylactically, think ahead. And the exercise program should begin then because you need the collaterals later on when the vessels start to block. And it's quite an art, actually. And the business of walking, you need to walk. It's basically endurance training. If you push too hard and your calf locks up, then you have to stop. That's not what you want. You want to take it right to the edge. I wrote an article about that, comparing it to the lactate threshold in endurance training, where you get close to the lactate threshold, but not so your muscles lock up, so you can keep going. If you go too fast, and cadence is important, if you go too fast, then the muscle will be deprived of blood completely, and then you don't function. So the first sign of a problem with a muscle that's starved of blood is you'll notice your feet start slapping the ground instead of working properly. And you need to learn how to walk properly, by the way, and that is a big topic. Um, that's when you back off. You might walk more slowly. If you have a real problem, then you just stop and you have to suffer the pain of reperfusion of the muscles. And you learn to take it to the edge. but you have to think like an endurance athlete. So if it looks like you're heading for problems with the existing stents through clotting, then or build up on the wall, then you should be doing your training then. You should start your walking program then. And there needs to be more than just walking. You need cross training, for which I do cycling and swimming. Swimming is really good, especially certain exercises that are on a couple of my videos. And that cross training keeps your body strong. So you need to be a strong body, not just depending on your legs. You need to engage your whole body in the process. And that's what my work is all about. And I think because of my Ironman training, and in spite of a horrible blood profile, I mean, my triglycerides, when I discovered this problem back when I was in my 30s, my fasting triglycerides were over 2,000, whereas they should have been below 150 milligrams per deciliter. This was like a life-threatening situation, and I was saved by my exercise and training. But the trouble is, you have to find some exercise you enjoy, and I cannot imagine not enjoying walking. I mean, a good book to read on this is Danny Dreyer's Chi Walking. I highly recommend that book. I did his Chi running technique for training for long runs, and it really helped me a lot. That and Jack Hagee's work. So you'll be able to find all that stuff on my websites and stuff. But yeah, if you started by reading Danny Dreyer's book, is written by him and his wife. I forget her name. I'm sorry about that, Jack. Danny Dreyer's wife. Anyway, that is an excellent book to teach you how to walk properly and effectively and efficiently and enjoyably. So, Danny Dreyer, Chi Walking, highly recommended. Complex subject, one worth studying for us. And remember, you're probably going to have PAD for the rest of your life. So now you're an endurance athlete fighting PAD. That's the enemy, and you can beat it. I mean, I'm still going at 82. I did a local run not long ago, and so it's you would hardly call it running, and I'm slow because I got PAD and I'm 82. I mean, what do you expect? But
But you still do it. You still do it, which I think is admirable
that's the
and
trick.
inspirational.
Got to get out there and do it. That's exactly right.
So, something that I've never had anyone answer because I'm not quite how to formulate it. So, bear with me on this question. Um, So we always tell people that you need to treat your walking workout as if you're in the gym with a trainer and you're, for example, either doing leg presses or bicep curls. And you have to do 3 sets of 15. You're on that last set of 15. You're at 12. And you're just like, I can't do it. There's too much pain. It's burning. You can see literally the veins bulging out of your arm as you're just stressing and stressing and stressing. And you're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And your trainer says, just give me one more bicep curl, one more leg press. And we liken that to just give me one more step. How is talk about the collateral vessel growth when you're a bodybuilder, because obviously these collateral network of vessels end up kicking in. If you're building more muscles, you're obviously needing more blood flow to fuel those muscles. So I would imagine that's the same thing as what you're doing when you're building your collateral vessels around blockages in your legs, or am I wrong?
Well, what you're describing is intensity training, and you want to be doing endurance training, which is much gentler, and you get a feel for where things are going. I mean, I can walk 10 miles, no problem, but if I try and run up a hill, my calves will lock up because of pace and load. So what you want to really do is think like an endurance athlete, not like somebody who's wanting to bench press 250 pounds in the gym. That's intensity training. Uh, this is endurance training, but you have to take it to the edge. You have to push it a bit in order to get improvement. But there's a huge difference between intensity and endurance. And
Well, I just mean taking that one more step. So they say push through the claudication. So that's my example of, so you're pushing through the claudication to walk to grow those collateral vessels, and you're walking to a level 7 or 8 as you're doing it, which the pad management guidelines for walking state is that you have to push through and take that extra step. when you are walking as medicine. It's not good enough for you to just walk to the point of claudication to when you start feeling the pain. The time at which you're actually growing the maximum amount of collateral vessels is when you're pushing through that cramping to your breaking point, in a sense. Not quite your breaking point, but to a certain extent. And that's where I was like, well, when you're actually doing your bicep curls and you don't think you could do another, and you feel the burning, you feel the pain, no gain is what your trainer says. You just give it just one more bicep curl, one more step. Does it make sense?
It does.
I'm just curious about the building. So when you do build your new muscles, right, you have to have, it's not those general arteries that were already there that are building it. Like you're building the collateral network of vessels around the new muscle, or no?
It's the wrong kind of thinking. What you need to do,
Okay.
you want to be going walking for as long as you can. If you up your pace, generally cadence, or you go a hill, then you have to back off. But the goal is to take yourself to the edge of claudication, but not actually claudicate. So you don't walk through the claudication because now you're trying to get a muscle to do work it can't do because it doesn't have enough blood. You have to take it to that edge. So it's a matter of listening to your body, and you can feel that edge. You can feel claudication will kick in if you don't back off, but you don't keep pushing until it locks up, because then you'll get dysfunction. And before you know it, the leg isn't operating properly. And then you start misaligning your hips or whatever. So the
Yeah,
art,
you don't want to get to the point where you're going to fall. But we have people that literally will, they have their claudication that comes on at literally 30 seconds into their walking. So they start walking, the moment they start walking, they start claudicating. And so it might be a matter of for what they say in the guidelines, it's a matter of tolerating it. And a lot of people will stop at that 30 seconds. The moment they feel anything, they stop. And so the whole idea is you got to push through somewhat, not to the point you're going to injure yourself, but you need to push through in order to walk further the next time. Further, if you keep stopping at 30 seconds when you start feeling the pain, then you're never going to progress. Did you freeze?
no, I didn't freeze. I'm thinking
Okay.
about how the hell explain this to someone who's only just started? Right now, I've pretty well
Yeah.
completely eliminated walking claudication in my calves by using this method of moving my feet, which is not the begin. I mean, that's not a beginner's thing where I use this rotation in my feet and convert my feet into remote blood pumping stations. That actually works, and I can walk pretty well anywhere and uphill doing that, and it's not a problem. When I started doing this stuff back in 2014, I would have to stop at about 250 yards on a run. My calf would lock up. I may have to wait as long as 20, 30 seconds for the calf to refill with blood, and it would hurt like crap. I think to some extent you have to go to that point initially, but it's really better to use the technique I've developed, which is to turn your feet into pumping stations and then learn how to take yourself to the edge, just like keeping away from your lactate threshold. This is endurance training thinking. It's not a simple thing. And I suspect that many people giving this advice on claudication are pushing through it. Those are the very same people who would tell you to push through your lactate threshold. Bad idea. It's not, it's the wrong way to think. And so it's better to improve the way you move and learn how to listen to your body and take it to the edge of claudication. It's very uncomfortable, but you're not getting dysfunction. And so it's all a matter of how you hope to train. But you have to think like an endurance athlete. You can't think in terms of intensity, and you can't push a muscle through if it's not getting any blood. You're now into lactate threshold territory, anaerobic exercise. You want to avoid that. What you really need is aerobic exercise, use of oxidative phosphorylation, not glycolysis. So this comes down to biochemistry at the end of the day.
I think there's just, you have a greater pain threshold probably than a lot of people. And so when you're being, someone who's been doing this a while, and I think that probably those people who are in the earlier stages, when they tell me that they are at the onset of claudication, it's like, okay, I feel something. And we have several people that have ended up wishing that they would have walked a little bit more because they ended up with the amputation. They're like, God, I wish my doctor would have told me to actually walk through some of that claudication, because every time I literally started feeling something, I would sit. And
I, I,
they they
I think
they
you need
wish
to
they would have pushed.
You need to walk into love. At first, a simplistic approach to the problem is you repeatedly walk into claudication until you really can't walk, and then you stop, and you let, like I did at first, and then you let the muscle refill, and then you do it again, and you do it
Yep.
again, and you do it again over and over, as I did for as many as 10 miles. I would keep stopping until I learned how to modify the way I moved, and now I don't have to do that. So I think that needs to be clarified for beginners. At
Yeah.
least it's a place to start. But if you start thinking intensity and not endurance, you'll never get the collaterals you really need. And not more study needs to be done on this anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah. And we have someone that came in with a question that emailed me yesterday in preparation for this. They were talking about, I don't know how much treadmill training you've done, but they were wondering about what some options were for improving their collateral vessel growth while on a treadmill, and including the different inclines. Do you want to go, what if you hit 30 minutes at zero incline? Do you want to try going 60 minutes with zero incline before you go up to the next level, let's say 5% or 10% of incline, and then try to work your way up to 30 minutes again, then work your way up to 60 minutes again, and then go up another 5 or 10%? Or based on your experience, what would you suggest?
Well, on my YouTube channel, I videoed a 1 hour treadmill incline training that I did
Oh,
in
you
order.
did.
There's a video one. It's a 1 hour. I don't. I mean, I didn't. A video doesn't run for an hour. That'd be really boring. But I took segments at different incline levels and described how I get to the incline I want to work on. And if you're trying to build real strength in your collaterals and your legs, you might work with higher, but you can also on a treadmill adjust it so you're on that, like that edge point of what I talk about, lactate threshold, so then you can keep going but you can feel it's doing the work. I think that actually is one of the most effective way to grow collaterals, though we need studies to prove that, which we don't have. We just have my perception in this case. So if they go to my YouTube channel, on there is this 1 hour treadmill workout designed to grow collaterals, and I'm describing it as I go along. And unfortunately, the video is just like you right now. The screen of the treadmill is bouncing up and down all the time because I have to film it while I'm doing the exercise.
Yeah.
If they go look at that, the answer lies there.
And we have Mike, who actually has a comment. He says he does your pad 100 every morning, and it certainly helps to wake his feet up. So he thanks you for that. So he's watching your video every single morning and making sure that he does his pad 100. You talked about in the beginning, just for those who may be tuning in, give us the quick Cliff Notes version of that pad 100, because he says it really works for him.
Yeah, well, what I did was, if you can see my hands, I turned my feet into pumps. So basically, I spread my toes and then I contract them as my feet come down on the treadmill. I contract them and then I pull back, which contracts all the muscles in the bottom of my feet. And that pumps the blood out of my feet. And then I lift and spread my toes. That helps the exit of the blood and tissue from my foot up toward my calf. And so I do that. The PAD 100 is like this on both feet. So you have to do it right. You're doing this with your feet. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And in the video, I do it 100 times so the person watching the video can do it with me. Because I've noticed that people doing yoga, it helps to watch the yoga instructor. So if you go to my video channel, you'll find the PAD 100, one word, I guess, and you can just copy what I do and I explain it fairly clearly, I think. So thank you, Mike, for your encouragement. You're the first person, I think.
So what's really interesting is as soon as you started talking about curling your toes and grabbing them, I was going to ask you, I've been on my walking pad now for what? 45 minutes. And I've been walking at, it's a 10% incline at 4 miles an hour. And I've already burned 200 calories. Thank you very much. But I always notice about this time, my left hip starts bothering me. And as soon as you told me to start curling your toes and bringing them back, the hip pain went away. That's pretty incredible. I don't know if one has to do with the other, but I'm literally now clawing, in a sense, through my shoes as I'm taking each step.
The important thing to remember is your feet and your hips are integrated. They're an integrated system. And this is part of my work on so-called plantar fasciitis, which is absolutely the wrong name for that condition. It's basically a nociceptive heel pain coming from hip misalignment. So yeah, thinking in terms of engaging your hips with your feet is really important. I have a lot of trouble with my hips because I know I have blocked vessels up there too. And I'm working out ways, mainly on the treadmill, to push collateral growth further up my body in my hips. I mean, if I can grow them in my heart, surely I can grow them in my hips. And so, yeah, it's go study Feldenkrais or Pilates or yoga or whatever. I've done all those things, and they've really helped me a lot. So it's interesting because yes, you're literally clawing your way along, engaging your feet, pumping the blood, contracting your calf muscle, so you drive blood towards your heart through venous return. Yeah, you really want to move your whole body, but especially your feet.
And we have Mike that's coming in. He says he does intervals of 10 minutes on a high incline and then intervals of 10 minutes on flat for an hour and a half. He says he does get claudication pain, but he wonders, should he be lowering his incline and walking further to walk through it more?
I think you have to do both intensity and endurance training. So for intensity, you can have a steep incline for a briefer period of time, but you also need regularly to do less of an incline for a longer time. And the best place, the real place to work is out on the road on asphalt, preferably because it's softer. I avoid trails now because they're accident prone. But yeah, both. We need to, intensity is important, but also endurance type training is important too.
And Douglas, I don't know if he wants to unmute, but he was talking about, you had mentioned wool socks at one point. And Douglas, if you do want to unmute, I know you're sitting here in the live studio audience. There you go. I can see you popping on. You can absolutely tell the difference in how your feet feel at the end of the day in wearing these wool socks, right?
I got rid of all my socks, and all I have now is wool socks. And building my tiny house and walking and staying on my feet all day, I have been able to tell a big difference in how my feet feel at the end of the day. I'm standing here fixing to do some chop sawing, and I'm doing calf raises. And I took my shoes off, and I'm making sure I spread my feet as I'm doing my calf raises. And my wool socks do make a difference in how my toes feel. I don't know if that makes sense, but I can't tell the difference.
Well, the
What do
difference
you think, Kevin?
the thing is, people wear tube socks, which are horrible, and tight shoes, which are horrible. You've got to be able to spread your feet and use your feet. Think of a monkey climbing a tree, with their back feet. How can they do it like this? They can't. And so the thing about wool is it's very elastic, and cotton is really, it's called they're called death materials for climbers in ice and stuff. And wool is much better. And also the lanolin is good for your feet. Foot massages are really good. So Doug's doing the right thing. But the bottom line is whatever works for you. You have to explore it and try your options. But if this is working for Doug, that is great. A wide toe box is important. I find wool socks, I use smart wool socks. They just seem to work well. When I run, I use no socks at all. I just have a Nike free shoes, which are basically a piece of rubber on the bottom of my foot. And so you got to, whatever works for you. You're doing a good job, Doug. I like your work, by the way. I like some of the stuff you make.
Oh,
Another
he is a
another
creative
question.
genius.
I have a couple of
Yes.
questions.
Okay.
when you talk about the weight training, I understand that if I can't get to a gym and I'm doing weight training in my house, if I'm having trouble walking that day or training or something, and I'm trying to weight training, do I want heavy weights or light weights? The light weights I tend to go longer, and it helps my endurance. Is what I understand.
Well, once again, it comes down to intensity versus endurance. When I'm trying to build strength, I use heavier weights and shorter reps. When I'm doing endurance, I use light weights and more reps. And it's a mental thing. You have to know what is it you're trying to do. Are you trying to build muscle or are you trying to build collaterals? If you're trying to build muscle, which you need. I mean, you need a strong body and strong muscles. In my opinion, for growing collaterals, the endurance approach is best. For getting strength so you don't injure yourself, then intensity is better, and therefore you use heavier weights. The funny thing is, it's a matter of feeling your way through it and experimenting because we're all different. That's for sure.
And one more. Can I ask one more?
Always.
You just did.
Well, I'm gonna ask one more
You're
then.
done. You're cut off, Douglas.
I'm gonna cut off. Well, I'm gonna ask
Oh
one
no,
more.
that's an old
Go
joke. It's an
back
old
It
joke.
is,
and
but we're having fun.
as I'm listening, if I was new to the group, very new, and new to the walking app and all of that, and I'm told to walk through that, to talk about collateral in that point. I want you to explain a little more about that part where I'm told to walk through that pain until I almost feel like I'm going to fall. And then that's when I build those collaterals. So what I heard you say was I was a little confused in that part about walking where I thought I was understood to walk through that pain for 30 minutes until and then stop. So does it depend on where you are in the beginning to where you are like a year later or 2 years later from walking? I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes
Kevin, and I'm wondering if it's a little subjective because I think what I'm hearing is maybe there's a difference in thoughts on what is the claudication and how patients experience the claudication. And we talked about, those that literally the moment they start to feel anything, they're like, I better stop. I'm not going to do it. And they never progress because they're never walking through anything. They're never pushing themselves at all. The moment they start to feel anything, they stop, they sit, and they just never get anywhere. So I think that there's probably a balance.
Well, there is a balance, but there's an initial learning curve, and that's the problem. Pushing into the pain to the point that you stop is like training for a 100-yard dash. You're going into lactate threshold territory. If you want to run a marathon, you could never do that in a marathon. You would never finish the marathon. And fighting PAD is more like a marathon than it is a 100-yard dash. But when you start out and you've not done anything, that 100-yard dash thinking is a place to start. You're getting moving. You know what the claudication feels like. You can go 200 yards, then you have to stop. You let it refill, you do it again. So you start getting a feeling for the claudication. And then you can get further and further. But there comes a point that you're always going to be stopping at some point if you push it too hard. And then you're ready to migrate from intensity to endurance. So I think this needs to be built into our training plans. So as I
Yeah.
create my training plan, I think I'll put instructions in this book I'm writing it right now because I started out doing the 100-yard dash thing. I mean, it's in my first book on training for aging where I could walk 200. I was trying to run 4 miles and I'd run 200 yards and I had to stop not because of the pain, but because my feet are slapping the ground and they're not functioning properly. They're going to damage my feet. So I stop, I let the blood recharge, and then I run again, run again. And I found by doing that, I could get further, but I can never get the kind of distances I'm doing now because you can't take 100-yard dash training and apply it to a marathon. And let's face it, living with PAD is a damn marathon, that is for sure. And so I would
Yeah.
say I'm going to think about that and come up with a training plan that includes the intensity, initial intensity training,
Yeah.
and then the migration from that to endurance training, which is basically
Yeah.
a transition.
And I think that that's a really good point. I think that that's something that we do need to talk about, because once someone does get, let's say, the stents put in, right? They never really they can't walk through. They're at the later stage. They end up getting stents, or they end up getting a bypass. And I think that's more of where they need to start at the marathon versus at the 100-yard dash, right? So there are different levels where people are at, and everyone needs to have the conversation with their PT. At the beginning of this episode, Kevin talked about the importance of seeing your PT and having them help design a program that is right for your situation. But if you do have stents that are put in, at that point, you're getting a rush of blood flow. You're going to need to push through. You're going to need to do the marathon training, I think, Kevin, is what you're talking about.
Yeah, it really is interesting because the real problem is most people are much too inactive, and they've created this problem, and through no fault of their own, by not doing enough exercise throughout their life. And I understand why. You're raising kids, you have a job, you da 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 da. Now, if you are heading in the direction that you need a stent in your legs or an angioplasty in your legs, which of course my physician recommended against, that's the time you need to start training. You really need to start training now. I mean, if you're massively overweight and you're 45 and you want to live a long life and see your grandkids, you better start doing something now. So prophylactic thinking is key. I think this should be taught in schools. The problem with American schools, the British ones weren't quite so bad, is it's all focused on winning. No, school exercise programs should be based on a love of exercise for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Academics shouldn't be about grades. They should be about a love of learning for the rest of your life. It's not about winning. It's about living enjoyably. So, yeah, I'm going to think about the best way to initiate a person who doesn't know shit about exercise, and now they have PAD coming on, and they have to initially challenge themselves with the intensity approach that you described. And then they've got to understand that once they get that underway, they need to start learning how to transition to an endurance approach, because
Yeah.
PAD is an endurance battle.
I think that that's well said. That is beautifully said.
I'll
Um,
read that into my next book.
I think that that's great. I'm glad it's fun kind of talking through this and sharing experiences and such. And we have Mike, who actually decided to join our. He went from watching online to joining our in studio audience, and he is out there walking as well. I can see the power lines, and I can see the blue sky, and I can see the
Was
sun.
that Mike Holm, the guy who's been talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, Mike, you the
Hey,
guy who's been texting me?
Mike, go ahead and unmute.
Sorry?
Are you
Yeah.
the guy that's been communicating directly with me?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah, you're the guy who does the PAD 100 every morning. Yeah,
yes, yeah.
you're doing that encourages me a lot, because usually sometimes I write books and I do videos, and it's like I drop it down a well. I never hear anything back. Nothing.
Yeah.
And you communicating with me is an incredible encouragement for me to continue my work.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And coming from a fellow Britishman as well, so.
Where are you? Where are
Can
you
you
in
hear?
England?
Yeah, I'm in Canada. I live in Canada now.
Okay.
But I'm from Manchester.
Yeah, I know it. I'm from Bristol.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
yeah,
thank you.
I do your pad 100 every single morning. Even my partner tells me to do it now. If I kind of forget or don't do it, he's like, "Get back upstairs, get that pad 100 done before you get out of bed."
Yeah, I
So
think it actually, I learned it from Pilates, from the Pilates 100
yeah,
before. I just took the idea and applied it to my stuff. So that's good. I'm glad to hear
yeah.
it.
No, thank you, and thank you, Kim.
My
What
pleasure.
does it do for you, Mike? Explain to people why it matters, how you feel before, and what it does for you, and what you're able to do more after you've done the Pad 100.
When I first wake up in the morning, I just feel as though I don't feel as though my feet are dead. I just feel as though I'm not really going to be able to balance much on them when I stand up. And sometimes when I'm like get up and go to the toilet through the night, I can feel like a little bit of an ache in my heels and stuff. But once I do the pad 100, once I get to like 90 to 100,
I can really feel it in the top of my feet and in the bottom of my feet. I can really feel like I've really stretched my feet out. And once I get up, it's like I'm walking on air. I feel as though I'm kind of floating for a minute or two. And then it just kind of sets me up for the day. I don't feel any kind of ache during most of the day. I do, Kim knows, I kill the treadmill every single morning. And then I come out and have a walk in the afternoons like I am now. And yeah, I just feel as though it helps a hell of a lot, especially first thing in the morning. So, yeah.
So wait a minute, I can say I did something useful in my life finally.
You've helped me out.
Absolutely great.
I love that. Thanks, Mike. You can pop back
You're
in at
welcome.
any time. And Douglas, I'll get to you in 1 second, but we have Alan that's joining in, our good friend Alan. He says he wants some advice. He is someone with a left leg amputation, half of the right foot amputated, and he says he's only able to walk 200 yards before his stump ends up stopping me. He's in pain, and he can't get to a pain level in his existing leg where it's actually making a difference. And I don't know your experience maybe with folks who are, pad amputees.
Well, are you talking to me?
Yeah, so
I've
he
had
has,
people write to me before about this kind of thing.
yeah,
The real trick is to work with what you have. I mean, if you can work out, you need to get keep whole body strength. But boy, you have a challenge, but it's exactly the same problem we have. Somehow you have to find a way to exercise and keep growing collaterals further up your leg. I know I'm having to grow them in my hips. It's just harder in your case because you have more of a challenge. But the art of this whole business, and I've talked to so many people with aortic dissections and stuff like that. Somehow you have to let go of the past and work with what you have. So you have to discover what you have and then use it. And so, man, if I imagine, is the amputation below the knee or above the knee?
his on the one leg it's below the knee, but also on his other leg he had a transmetatarsal amputation, so half, the front of his foot is gone as well. And what he's saying is like he can, because he's working, trying to work with the prosthetic and the stump and the prosthetic, end up, they start rubbing sometimes. Most people that we deal with, their prosthetics are never perfect. I don't know what it is, they just are clunky. And so they just don't seem to get them fitted right. And so they have trouble walking further and faster to a point where their other leg, the leg that's actually remaining, is getting the endurance training that it needs in order to build those collateral network of vessels to save it.
It seems to me if he can use the pool, if that's possible, and work
Well, that's
with
a
it
good idea.
and work from the core. So working, I mean, when you swim kick, because I made a video about kicking in the pool, I find it helps my feet a lot because as you kick, it spreads your feet. But in this case, he doesn't have that ability. I mean, even in the foot that's cut off through the metatarsals, he's going to have to work on flexibility at the ankle. So if he works from the hips, it's going to help him build strength and collaterals he needs in his lower legs, which he can then apply to walking. So that if I was him, I try and put my mind in his situation. If I could work in the pool, then I can do the cardio work I need to do, and I can do the strengthening I need to do, and probably even to some degree collaterals, which I then apply to the stump. And so, man, this is a real challenge. I kind of admire him fighting back. I think this is impressive. I
Well,
wish I
one thing that would be
had some
interesting is
plan.
he just says he actually can leg press 140 pounds.
Is that
So he
right?
might be one that you might want to share a personal story with through in your books, and maybe work with him a little bit separate on it, and talk to him further about his limitations, because no one is talking about it, Kevin. And this is something that we have a real need for. I mean, you think that we have a need just for general pad patients and walking, but we need to stop the revolving door of amputations. And there are no programs out there that are clinically proven to help. And I think that you would be one that could start the process of helping people like Alan to do what they need to do to halt the revolving door of amputations.
I'd like to talk to him because my training plan talks about it being designed for amputees to athletes, the full range of people. And I've thought a lot about this problem of amputation and how to deal with it and how to do the work. I mean, you can't do the PAD 100 if you have no feet. So what do? But you have to have exercises designed for you. The physicians are not going to do this. They're not equipped to do this. In fact, I don't think anyone is equipped to do this apart from us and the person with the amputation, because it's a thinking problem, a solution. It's a problem-solving issue, and we are so at such early days with this. Man, amputations need to stop. That's for sure, because most of the time I think they can be avoided with regular atherosclerosis. But that's another story that you deal with every day. Anyway, if that guy wants to talk to me, write to me, whatever, I will do. It will help me a lot to think through the problem, because now we're talking about serious biomechanical challenges.
Yep. And Alan, it's inspirationalselfhelpbooks.com. And you can actually, Kevin answers all of his emails that come through that site. So just definitely contact him through there. It's pretty easy. He's also very responsive on Facebook. So, and especially he loves those likes and comments on those Facebook posts in our group to help drive them forward and get more people to see this incredible information. Alan says, there's nothing working that he tries. He tries some new ideas and he just can't seem to stick with them because there doesn't seem to be any forward movement or improvement. And I think that this is an issue, Kevin, that I'd love for you to address just overall, because with any exercise regimen, it's hard to get started. We just had our friend Jody in the group, or Jose in the group. He goes by Jody in the group, but his name is Jose. He was able to lose 300 pounds. And he said the beginning, when he was first losing the pounds, that was really kind of hard because he wasn't really losing as quickly as he needed to continue to motivate him. When you're 600 pounds and you're changing your diet drastically and you're exercising and you're not seeing the pounds drop off as quickly as you'd like, that's hard to stay motivated, right? And I think that that's also, with Alan, nothing he seems to be doing is, getting him to a place fast enough to where he's motivated to continue to do it.
Is he interested in wheelchair racing?
I think he's not in a wheelchair because he's
Getting cramped,
below
right?
knee.
Yeah, but I was thinking about anything that's a sport that would be help his general training. I'm not thinking about. I mean, if he's only got one leg and he's lost the toes on one foot, but he wants to do something interesting, he needs to find things. I mean, for me, it's Ironman, but he needs to find things that he can sense progress and change and help others in similar situations. So that's just a thought. It's just a thought. Yeah, but
It's a good
if
thought.
he goes to my website, on the first page there's a sign up for the newsletter. I send out the newsletter every Thursday morning. And then if you reply when you receive the newsletter in your inbox, you can reply to that email, which will come in your inbox, and I'll get an answer and then we can communicate. I'm very happy to do that. And this has got me thinking, man, it's like we're right at the very beginning of solving this problem because nobody's thinking about this situation apart from the person who's got the problem.
Yeah, and then he also has really bad heart issues. So he has cardiomyopathy. And so he can't do high impact anything. Everything has to be low impact. But this is what you were talking about again, it's not, you don't want to be doing, the intensity is not what you need. It's the endurance. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong again, but it's more the endurance that would be something that would be right for him because he can't do high impact anyway. He needs that endurance.
Right. Can he use the pool is my first question.
I'm hoping up. So he says, yes, sir. So Alan, just reply again in the comments. Was it yes, sir, that you it was exactly what we were saying, that endurance training is what you were needing? Or do you actually have a pool? Do you have access to a pool? I could fly you out to California and you can use our pool. But if there's a pool that you can use, that would be great. But maybe you could put in comments and let us know if you actually have a pool. Just repeat yourself if so. He said he's going to actually just go ahead and talk to you personally via email. What's interesting is that they say that water walking is not really as impactful as walking, because the whole idea is you want to walk into the claudication in order to grow collateral vessels. But after you had your last talk that you did where you talked about water walking, or it was an article that you did or a video, can't
Water
remember.
running. Water running.
Water running. What I did was I ended up going on Amazon and getting a couple 2-pound weights. And so when I'm now in the pool, I'll do the water walking, but then I have a floater belt that I put around my waist. And I actually go around the pool and I do little bicycles, and I do kind of a little interval training where I do my bicycles, I hang for a couple minutes, and then I go into the shallow water and I walk with those weights on. And it seems to really, I can really feel my muscles moving.
Yeah, if you walk on the bottom in the pool, which I never do, it's a very different kind of training to walk to running off of the bottom, which is my main training approach, is water running. And it's you're actually, I'm not using a float aid at all, but it's all in that video I posted ages ago. But you can actually work in the water and you're escaping gravity to some extent. So what you're doing is actually a pretty good exercise. And it's very interesting because you're having to force yourself through the water. I mean, the kinematic viscosity of water is like 16 times that of air. So yeah, you're really loading up your hips and stuff. So it's pretty good. And if you have the weights, which will tend to pull you even tighter to the bottom, you just have to
And
find
Al,
what to do. But I'm really wondering about Alan. My brain is like, I'm trying to
okay, so he responded. He said that he needs a pool leg. But what's interesting is that I have a couple amputees that I've known for 20 years, and they actually went in and they would do the exercises without their prosthetic, and they would move their stump. Because if you're talking about water walking the way you're talking, you're not talking about literally walking on the bottom of the pool.
it's water running, not
Yours,
water walking. It's water running.
it's water running, but
You
you're
don't
not on
run,
the bottom.
if you don't run, you sink. You have to run or you sink. You have to watch my video. It explains it all on different exercises you can do and just different muscles. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
wonder if
like it's from the questions we're getting, this is really useful to me because it's putting me into places my mind hasn't been yet. I mean,
yeah.
it's really helpful, and I like
Well, I think
solving.
it's helpful for all of us as well.
Yeah,
And so, Kevin, it would be great if we could continue, and maybe same bat time, same bat channel next week. And for those, if you're like me and you're like Mike, that was on a little bit ago, I just got more than an hour in of walking. It was a great distraction, great conversation. One of the things when you're working out, you always want to um, know the intensity and limit yourself. Just if you can carry on a conversation while you're doing it and getting that workout, that's a really good thing. So join us every single Wednesday and we can walk through this claudication together. You can get tips, you can get tricks, you can get motivation. You have Kevin that is right here, that is literally, guiding you. Look at him as your coach every single step of the way. And we'll do this as many Wednesdays as we can, Kevin, if we can. And then what would be great
happy.
is
I'm
that
happy to do that. That sounds good.
maybe some of what we talk about might be reflected in your newsletter. Some of the a little bit of the summary of what we talk about during each session, or maybe what we're going to be talking about in the next session could be included. But make sure you go to inspirationalselfhelpbooks.com. It's really important. You can sign up for Kevin's newsletter there. we always suggest that no matter what, this is for informational, educational purposes only. Always check with your own healthcare team that knows your situation best. Do not act on any information provided here without the explicit consent of your healthcare provider that knows your situation best. And before you start any exercise regimen, you should always check with your healthcare team. And I know Kevin is smiling, but I have to do our
I
disclaimers
know, it's the
to
old
make sure to
disclaimer.
protect
I
everybody.
put a disclaimer on everything I do.
But we do have Maggie that just jumped in. She's brand new. She says she went to the doctor yesterday. He suggested injections for spider veins, never mentioned anything about walking. He even mentioned vein ablation as well. In your experience, is walking, good for not only the arteries, but also the venous system as well? I'm not sure if you have experience with spider veins in particular, but we've always noticed with spider veins is that there is a deeper issue. And if your doctor is just literally putting a band-aid on the symptom with ablation of these spider veins, that's not going to solve your problem. You need a doctor that's going to dive deeper to understand, is there a grander venous issue that you might have going on? What is happening with your human superhighway beneath there? Don't just look at the cosmetic. You need to actually dive a little bit deeper. But from your perspective, if there is a deeper issue with the veins, are there exercises that you have learned that will help with that as well?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah, I need to research the underlying cause of spider veins. I mean, usually people deal with this for cosmetic reasons, for looking more attractive, but they're obviously a symptom of a venous problem. You can grow venous collaterals, by the way. At the end of the day, the way your body works is so dependent on exercise. There are muscles that affect the skin. There's the panniculus carnosus under the skin and much of the body. And so I would have to research it, and I can do that.
That would be great, because that was the one thing that I ended up talking to a couple venous doctors in our group. Maggie, if you're in the PAD support group.org, we do have an advanced world-renowned venous expert who is in there, and he answers all of these questions. And one of the things I did learn from him is there's always something deeper going on. If you have something that's materializing on the surface, like spider veins, you do need to find someone that is going to do a little bit more exploration to understand the root cause of those. I mean, it could just be something that's genetic, but most of the time, even if it is genetics, there is something deeper in the grander venous system that might need addressed. So make sure you do the exploration before you rush into procedures, and also ask the question about whether certain exercises might help as well. But thank you everyone for joining us. Again, make sure you like this video, please. It just helps our algorithm with driving our video forward a little bit further for more people to see. Also subscribe to our channels. We have a couple channels represented here. You have Fit Old Dog, even though he's not an old dog because he's still learning new tricks.
I'm 82
Um,
years old.
but it's youtube.com/the @fit old dog. And also the Global PAD Association's YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to our channel as well. That's youtube.com/the global the way to my heart. The way to my heart is our 501c3 charity, and the Global PAD Association is our grander front facing name as well. But the YouTube channel is @the way to my heart, and Kevin's is Fit Old Dog. Make sure you join us every single Wednesday. If you want a special invite to our live studio audience, make sure you email info @padhelp.org and let us know that you want to join and you want to get on our calendar invite for our regular walking sessions that we're going to be doing every single Wednesday. I think this is early for me out here on the West Coast, but if you want to do it at 11 a.m. Eastern time, then I am in. It seems to be a good fit for Mike over there on the East Coast, as well as some of our folks over in England as well. So We'll stick with it for now, and hopefully you'll join us every single Wednesday. But keep walking. Walking is medicine. Walking is the best medicine for peripheral artery disease and improving your circulation. And again, give us your website and where we can reach you and where they can get your newsletter and the books that you have on Amazon, Kevin.
Okay. Yeah, they're there. It's all on my website, inspirationalselfhelpbooks.com. All the books are in there with short descriptions and stuff like that. If you really want a book and you can't afford it, I can send you a free ebook, but I can't send a free paperback because it's too expensive for me to manage.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Make sure you do check out those books on Amazon. And if you do need the ebook and you can't afford a regular book to buy on Amazon, just go ahead, go through inspirationalselfhelpbooks.com and message Kevin, and he'll get you that free ebook.